Well, good morning and welcome to the 50 Hoops Legends premiere of our Matchmaking Symposium and Workshop. I am Dr. Maisha Standifer, Population Health Director at the Satcher Health Leadership Institute at Morehouse School of Medicine, and I am delighted that you are joining us today. We have an exciting live and virtual experience as we match researchers, stakeholders, patients, and health ministries for more individualized and personalized education and recruitment for our African American in Trials program. But as it is our custom, we must have invocation, and we're calling upon Dr. Lester Singleton for that. Pastor Singleton.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Let's bow our heads for a moment. Lord, once again, Lord, it's just so awesome to be able to call your name on this Thursday morning. And we invoke your presence into this event, Lord, that you will continue, Lord, to have your way with us and have your way through us, and that your blessing will rain down on this event. I pray, Lord, that you will bless every speaker, empower us, Lord, and endow us with knowledge today, that we can go out and share this knowledge that we are about to receive with others. And right now, Lord, we give you all the praise, the honor, and the glory, and we give it all to you. In the holy, mighty name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen and amen. Now we can begin. Kicking off our matchmaking event is an organization that you may be familiar with from our partnership tours with them in 2018 and 2019. The Multiple Myeloma Research Foundation and Senior Director of Medical Communication and Education, Miss Mary Jerome. Joining her is the newest member of her staff, Dr. Ola Banjo, Director, Community Engagement and Partnerships. Mary Jerome oversees MMRF Patient and Professional Education Initiative, as well as the scientific content for the MMRF website, themmrf.org. You can read more of their bios in the September program online at 50hoopslegends.com. And now, Ms. Jerome and Dr. Banjo.
Thank you, Dr. Standifer, for that great introduction. And hello, everyone. I'm really happy to be here today for the Legends Premier National Matchmaking Symposium and Workshop. The MMRF is the largest nonprofit in the world whose mission is solely focused on accelerating a cure for each and every multiple myeloma patient. Multiple myeloma is the second most prevalent blood cancer, making up about 1.8% of all cancer. So it is a relatively rare cancer, and there is no cure at this time. African Americans are 2 times more likely to be diagnosed with multiple myeloma compared to people of other races. In pursuit of our mission, the MMRF focuses our work around 3 pillars of accelerating the development of novel therapies, driving optimal and personalized treatment approaches, and empowering patients and the myeloma community. The promotion of diversity, equity, inclusion, and health equity is at the center of everything that we do. The MMRF has worked closely with 50 Hoops in the recent past with the shared goal of raising awareness of multiple myeloma signs and symptoms in the African American community to ensure timely diagnosis, and also to encourage patients to seek out a myeloma specialist to ensure the best outcomes for their cancer. Another one of our shared goals is to encourage African American myeloma patients to join clinical studies. This is the best way to ensure that trial findings are applicable to all patients, and newly approved drugs in the multiple myeloma space work for all patients. My colleague, Dr. Ola Banjo, who is the Senior Director of Community Engagement and Partnerships, will talk more about this, and she serves as your community's personal resource with the MMRF. We are excited to see how we can best work with your communities to educate and inform around multiple myeloma. And now, Dr. Ola Banjo.
Mary, you have to turn off your video and sound.
Thank you very much, Mary, and I appreciate that. Thank you all for having us this morning. very quickly, I'm going to share my screen here because I would like to share some slides with you. And as Mary mentioned, my name is Ola Banja, and I'm the Senior Director of Community Engagement and Partnership. So working with organizations such as 50 Hoops is very important, and it's a big part of what I do at the MMRF. So just very quickly, I'm going to give you an overview of multiple myeloma and then dive a little bit more into some of the resources that we offer. So what is multiple myeloma? Multiple myeloma is a blood cancer that starts in the bone marrow, which is where all blood cells are produced. Now, multiple myeloma is caused when plasma cells, which is a type of white blood cell, multiplies and becomes abnormal and then multiplies out of control. Now, while we know what multiple myeloma is, the exact cause of multiple myeloma is not yet known. And Mary alluded to this earlier in what she mentioned, just about the differences between the general population and populations of African descent. Multiple myeloma is the #1 most common blood cancer in the Black population. And it's also 20% of all multiple myeloma cases. Now, Black individuals of African descent are more overrepresented in multiple myeloma. And this is why it is such of the utmost importance for us to continue to spread awareness and to give information about this disease, its impact on our community, and what patients can do to empower themselves and continue to have quality conversations with their healthcare team. So while these disparities exist, we know that there's still work to be done to continue to really move the needle to make sure that this is not always the case. Just very quickly, I want to just delve into what are the signs and symptoms of multiple myeloma. We frequently use this acronym CRAB, which is high levels of calcium in the blood, which represents the C. R is for decreased renal function, which is a kidney function. A is for low amount of red blood cells, anemia in the body, and then B, the presence of bone damage. You'll hear from multiple patients who say, their multiple myeloma was discovered because they had breaks or cracks in their bone. So really keeping a mind on this acronym is the first step in educating patients about the signs and symptoms of multiple myeloma. The other thing that we always tell our patients about is how do we achieve the right outcome, the best outcome? So ways and things to think about really is just surrounding yourself with the right team, accessing experts and centers that have extensive multiple myeloma experience in treating it and diagnosing it and in managing patients. Getting information about the right tests and precise diagnosis really empowers patients and caregivers to make the right treatment decisions. And then really with the right treatments, working with a team that you trust and that really empowers you will help patients decide what is the best treatment plan and also identify clinical trials that are right for you. So knowing that there are different options depending on the type of multiple myeloma, we always tell our patients to have really robust conversations with their care team, finding a specialist who will explain the risk and benefits of each option. And it's also important for patients to share with their healthcare team their preferences and concerns as they work together to achieve their goals. And then finally, finding clinical studies that are right for you. Clinical studies should be considered as part of the care continuum and play a very important role in the treatment of multiple myeloma. Now, going on to some of the resources that the MMRF offers, we have a very robust patient navigation center, which is staffed by oncology nurses who are very knowledgeable about multiple myeloma. So we always encourage patients to call in. Any and all questions can be answered by our patient navigation team. And then also, nothing is more impactful to a patient than being able to have conversations with someone who has been in their shoes and been along that journey as well. So we offer our myeloma mentors who are trained to inform, empower, and support patients and caregivers one-on-one. So they're there for any and all conversations, really just to help patients every step of the way. We also have very robust educational resources, which include webinars, fireside chats, expert summits, as well as patient summits. So this gives our patients even more of an opportunity to interact with the healthcare team, other individuals within the MMRF, and continue to get information on what are the latest treatments and some of the latest information that they should know to help them manage their disease. And then we also work with our events team just to put on run walks, marathons, really just physical events that help to spread awareness of multiple myeloma within our communities and also as fundraising events. So with that, I thank you for your time. We can take questions, and we thank you for having us, and we need a match. And Dr. Maisha, over to you.
Well, thank you so very much. Thank you again, Ms. Jerome and Dr. Ola Banjo. We will now proceed to our illustrious legend, Dr. Doris Brown, who is the past president of the National Medical Association and CEO of Brown and Associates. As director of Project Impact, her team outreaches nationally to encourage clinical trial diversity. Joining her is Dr. Randall Morgan.
Hello, I'm Dr. Doris Brown from the National Medical Association Project Impact. Impact means increasing minority participation and awareness in clinical trials. And today we're going to talk about engaging our community members, how to become partners and participate in clinical trials, why it's important, and why you should ask your provider to tell you if you're eligible for a clinical trial. And today I'm discussing this with Dr. Randall Morgan, who's also a member of Project Impact Steering Committee. He will talk about the original Project Impact and where we are today. So Dr. Morgan, can you just give a little background on when this started and why it is so critical even today?
Thank you very much, Dr. Brown. I am Dr. Randall Morgan, and I'm an orthopedic surgeon, but I'm also a physician who's had lifelong interest in research. And I've been involved with the National Medical Association in leadership, and I presently serve as the CEO and president of the W. Montague Cobb NMA Health Institute. So my whole existence now is focused on research, and we're excited to talk about the opportunity for our patients as well as our fellow physicians and other providers to make everyone's future more bright by participating in clinical trials. And the Cobb Institute is working very closely with the National Medical Association and Project Impact 2.0 to make that happen. And Project Impact is a program that the National Medical Association launched in 1999 and has been very successful, and not only in engaging physicians, but our community in providing a lot of information about what clinical trials are, how you can participate, and the benefits that you and your family can gain from clinical trials. But over the past 20 to 25 years, we have found even more evidence that says all of us should be a part of clinical trials, not only for ourselves and for our health, but for our families, for our children, and certainly for our communities. So, Dr. Brown, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you for being a part of this. Let's talk about what is a part of Project Impact now. We have a training program for our providers that is going around the country, and now we're going to launch our health education program for our community, and we're looking for community partners, and that those partners can be churches, civic groups, fraternal organizations, etc. Can you speak about how we can get involved in communities by touching those community leaders?
Sure. We have always cared deeply about our communities as physicians. And in fact, that's why we do what we do. But we realize that it's so important for people to really understand and to trust what we're speaking of when we talk about clinical trials. And certainly in the African American community and other underrepresented minority communities, there's a great deal of distrust when one hears about clinical trials. And so only by working with those who, what we call trusted voices in the community, those who have had experience and understand all of the advantages of being involved in clinical trials, are we able to make a difference? There are only a few of us who are physicians, and particularly in most communities, as African American physicians, we always tend to be the minority. So it's important to get the message out that we're able to connect with the churches, with the schools, with the Y, with the high school coaches, the teachers, any organizations in the community where we have greater access to our friends and to our patients in a situation where they're very comfortable with what we're speaking.
Yes, and it's because our members and the providers that we have there, or the community leaders we select, are members of the community. They grew up there, they are seeing patients there, they're attending church, or are part of the organizations that we are partnered with. And that's why we are considered the trusted agents. We recognize the history of this country and things that have happened to us in the past, and we are moving beyond that because one, our providers are engaged at all levels. And I should say, with Project Impact, we have providers that we are training to be a principal investigator. We're training for them to be a partner with the pharmaceutical industry in providing the care that's there. And then we're bringing in the patients and the community because they need to have answers, and we are there to answer those questions. Can you speak a little bit about some of the things that we have done in the past in terms of our educational programs over the years, or materials that we've developed for the community?
Yes, the National Medical Association has a broad reach in all communities of color in the United States. And so we have devised programs, we have devised a lot of materials that are applicable, I guess, to anyone who wants to know more about clinical trials. It's not in a lot of technical medical jargon. It makes a lot of sense when we talk about various opportunities for people to be a part of a clinical trial. But we also talk about people being able to be their own advocates in clinical trials because this is supposed to be a teamwork approach. And though a trial is occurring and someone is considered the principal investigator, the patient or the participant and the family of that participant is extremely important. And no one can participate in a clinical trial without their permission. And that's one of the major topics that the National Medical Association has always shared with its community. And then we've also been able to provide information to people about how certain um, clinical trials or certain conditions may be more successfully treated by amount of large participation in the clinical trial. There's some diseases like cancer and heart disease where it's absolutely important that we have an overrepresentation of underrepresented minorities, and particularly African Americans, in clinical trials. And our information that we share from our association is to explain to people how important that is and how they can be a part of the trial.
Yes, and as an oncologist, certainly knowing that a number of the cancer clinical trials are really very important. Let's speak a little bit about the partnerships that Project Impact has with not only the pharmaceutical companies that are very interested in moving this forward, but the new guidelines that are coming out of FDA that's really looking at making diversity in terms of clinical trials really more equitable that as we move forward in the 2023 and beyond.
Well, we have a number of organizations, certainly that are partners or intersect with the National Medical Association around causes such as clinical trials on health equity. And one of those is the Cobb Institute that I represent at this time. And we focus upon the ethics of clinical trials and how important it is for there to be fairness and equity in trials, and for an equal opportunity, not only for the patient in the clinical trials, but those who are actually administering the trials, and those who are judging whether the trial is really a fair trial. That would be those who would be on the various IRB boards or other review boards. So we try to emphasize that it's important for everybody in the community to have a role in clinical trials, and our relationships with what we call sponsors, or pharmaceutical companies who actually fund the clinical trials. We're always speaking as an advocate for those in the community, to make sure that the companies follow the line and follow the advice of the FDA. It's more than advice now, there's certain rulings. So they don't have a choice, but we try to emphasize that. But then also to bring other organizations in, such as Student National Medical Association, such as the church, such as the Y, such as even professional athletes who have been impacted through their families and now want to do something in the community to make a difference because of certain diseases. So I think everybody is more aware that we need to be involved, but we all just have to keep working at it together.
And yes, so this is just part of.
Well, thank you, legend, Dr. Doris Brown and Dr. Morgan. Again, you can review their bios in the September program online at 50hoopslegends.com. And if you have any questions, please be sure to place them in the chat box. Let's proceed with legend Dr. Deborah Austin. She is affiliated with ReachUp and has been an integral part of WeCare as a researcher and conducting patient outreach, and she's based in Tampa, Florida. Today, she will interview two survivors, Frank and Rosa Martin, who will talk about their cancer survivorship journey and experiences as patients and the impact of their experiences and recovery. Dr. Austin.
I'm Legend Deborah. Hello, everyone. I'm Legend Deborah Austin with We Care, Workshop Enhancing Community Advocacy and Research Engagement in Tampa, Florida. And I work with legends Dr. Kevin Sneed, Dr. Angela Hill, and Mr. Hiram Green. So today I get the privilege and the honor to interview Frank and Rosa Martin. Frank and Rosa are a tremendous couple, and they've actually been through the journey that we've talked a great deal about in all of our Legends program. So Frank and Rosa, hi.
Hi, how are you?
Just want you to start off by telling us a little bit about yourself, anything you want to. I know the two of you are retired, and
Yes.
so you can talk a little bit about yourself, and then share with us what cancer you had and how long it's been since you all have recovered.
Okay. Well, I'm Rosa, and I have retired for 6 years. And actually, I ended up with breast cancer, and it was considered HER2 positive, which is a progressive type of cancer that will come back. I was diagnosed last year in August, and actually next Wednesday will be my last chemo. So I'm still going through the process. So that's where I'm at with my journey. Frank?
I'm Frank. I retired about 5 years now. And I had prostate cancer. And it was a journey. But because of the support I got from my wife, and from our church family, and even my doctors. I wasn't scared. You know, I fought all the way, and now I'm cancer free.
And that was in 2020, right?
And that was in 2020.
Right, because you retired in 2019.
Yeah.
And 8 months after his retirement, we find out he has prostate cancer.
Prostate cancer.
Okay,
And
we'll go from there.
yeah, one of the main thing. Finish. One of the main thing that is a support, and if you can fight and be strong, then you will overcome. But you know, when a person drag down and started to scare and say me, that's where you find yourself in trouble.
Yeah. Do you all know if you had any family history?
Family history, all right. My mother died from pancreatic cancer in her 60s. Her brother, my uncle, he died from prostate cancer. Approximately 12 years ago, my eldest sister, had breast cancer. 3 years ago, that same sister had pancreatic cancer. So I'm going to go with yes, I have a family history, but the surprising, and thank God, thing about it is that we were tested to see if it was hereditary, and even though we have a history of it, it is not hereditary. My sister was tested, and I was tested, and also, to piggyback on that, my sister's son is going through multiple myeloma cancer currently. So it's really surprising that it's not hereditary, seeing that we have approximately, at least a good 4 of us that have had some form of cancer.
With me, I was surprised because I don't have no family history, and none of my parents, brothers, sisters, no family or relative have cancer. So when I was told to do the test, every year I do the PSA, when I go to the doctor, and then say, well, there's an elevation of the blood PSA test, and I was surprised. So, but with me, I don't have no family history of cancer.
You know, Rosa, you said you're still going through your treatment, and Frank, thankfully you're done. Were you all offered the opportunity to participate in a clinical trial?
I'm going to say no. I don't recall that. Do you recall?
I don't. No, I don't.
Okay.
No, I didn't think so for you either.
Remember.
Right.
It could, but I don't remember if they did.
Yeah, one of the reasons that we wanted to interview all is that, as we talk about this journey that you go through, it's not a journey that you just go through alone. And Frank, you talked about that already. Would you share with us the impact of your diagnosis and treatment on your family and loved ones, your colleagues? Frank, you talked about your church family. What was the impact of what you were going through on those folks?
I'm smiling because the impact also was on us as individuals, of course. But the biggest impact was a positive impact. The journey taught us, for me, it taught me that God had prepared me for this journey when I didn't even realize I was being prepared. And I'm saying that because once Frank retired, I retired 2 years prior to him, we've always been active, so we've always been walking, and so we've always been building up our endurance. We've always been persistent and, toughing it out. So looking back, I'm like, I was being prepared for this journey, and I didn't even realize it, so that when we received Frank's diagnosis and then my diagnosis, it was like, okay. And everything that I had been doing strengthened me so that I wouldn't fall mentally and physically, and especially spiritually. We were placed in a church with a church family, and having that family surrounded us, I always felt like I was in a cocoon because I was around so many prayer warriors, and I never felt really scared because like people are praying for me left and right. And just a side note, in regards to how it affected us, Frank and I are big into volunteering. We volunteer for Meals on Wheels, we volunteer for Feeding Tampa Bay, and for Kingdom Kids. People from Meals on Wheels were praying for us, even not knowing that what we were going through. So again, the prayers were always there. So it was like God was like, I'm gonna build you up so that you're gonna be so surrounded. So when we went through, so as I'm going through this, I was like, thank you, Jesus, for the support. And my last thing is that it was really important for our children to see how we handle this adversity so that they know that, yes, you're going to have challenges, yes, you're going to have struggles, but you can come through with a smile on your face. And our thing is that our faith is what kept us. It was like our faith, and as Frank spoke of earlier, our medical team. We had a team, or I still have my team. We have a team of medical doctors that we believe in, we trust their judgment, and they just took us through it. My daughter is an LPN, and she would call in for my medical appointment so she can hear and ask the doctor questions. And she lives in New York, and she always said, boy, Mom, you got a good team there. They're on top of their game. And so having that kind of support was a lot. And not to mention with what I'm going through now, having Frank. He, he was right there on top of everything with me and giving me the time I needed. And he knew when I was tired and I was fighting it, and you need to go take a nap, and things like that. So he was always, when I was a little tired, come on, let's go for a walk. He still had me out there walking. He would not let me just sit back and wallow if I wanted to. He was like, nope, let's go do this. So I had an excellent support team. Excellent. It's really important.
Wow. Well, with being when I was going through the radiation, and the doctor said, well, some days you're gonna be dragged and tired and sleep. But I didn't have no symptom.
Mm-hmm.
I keep going. Still, I go Bay Shore, Courtney Campbell, I do my little jogging weights, and I didn't have no, and as I said, it was rose on high because some of the kids that want us to come to New York, and I said, because I have the support here, and I still give the God first the praise, and our medical team. They were good.
Well, thank you so much, legend, Dr. Deborah Austin, and Mr. and Mrs. Martin. Again, you're able to review the bios for the survivors and Dr. Austin on the website. That is 50hoopslegends.com. Now let's proceed with our polls. And I believe polls will be up and coming. And as we respond to the questions and the polls, please take a few minutes to think about any questions you may have and post the questions in the chat box, please. Again, we thank all of you for attending today. And this webinar it's being recorded and it will be posted to 50 Hoops website. So as we close out the poll shortly, We need to look and see if we have any questions that we can respond to. We will also talk a bit more about the matching process for our organizations, for researchers, and any health ministries, and if you'd like to be included in clinical trials. So please let us know. If you have any questions, please put, that you want to be matched in a clinical trial, that you like to be matched as a researcher, or even matched with some community-based partners and stakeholders. So we thank you for responding to the polls. Let's proceed with our next living legend. Dr. Angela Hill is the Director of We Care Outreach to Patients and is a researcher. And she's going to speak with biochemist and researcher Dr. Renee Reams briefly. Renee Reams is from Florida A&M. Dr. Reams will give us a brief overview of her prostate cancer research focus and an update on her findings. Dr. Hill and Dr. Reams.
Good morning, well, afternoon, everyone. I'm a 50 Hoops legend from Tampa, Florida, at the University of South Florida, and program director of We Care. And it's a pleasure to be able to talk for a few minutes with one of my early mentors and longtime friends and colleagues, Dr. Renee Reams. And she is a medicinal chemist and professor from Florida A&M University, as Dr. Standifer indicated, and she has done phenomenal research in the area of prostate cancer. So, Dr. Reams, could you tell us a little bit more about your research and particularly the work you've done with African Americans?
Yes, I'm happy to do so, and thank you so much for inviting me. And I'd love to talk all day, but I'll keep it short. So I am a biochemist by training. I am in the medicinal chemistry department because some of my findings have applications for drugs for prostate cancer. And I actually stumbled onto the prostate cancer highway while at FAMU when a group wanted to form a multidisciplinary team to address prostate cancer. So I was the basic scientist. And we partnered with a cancer center and wrote a grant, won the grant. I told them, you gave me this itty bitty budget. I can't really do much with it, but they gave me a little bit more. And so I was able to do the first, believe it or not, the first ever study that actually looked at tumors from African-American men and their matched non-tumor, because when I look in the literature, they didn't even describe or say whether the tumors were coming from. But for the most part, they were from Caucasian men. So I was able to look at tumor versus non-tumor for Black men and tumor versus non-tumor for white men, and look to see if their genes and their gene expression would tell us why Black men's tumors were more aggressive. And believe it or not, although it was a small sample size, and I had to qualify that, 6 samples, because that's who got their tumors removed at this institute, and those are the people who chose to actually donate their tissues to science. So it shows you, I'm glad those 6 people did it. And the beautiful outcome, before I tell you my results, is that mine has become a kind of like a founding study. Larger centers have replicated my findings and found the same things, that the genes expressed in African Americans or their tumors have more immunological embedded tumors in them. And so the premise is, of course, if our immune system worked beautifully, correctly, no one would have cancer. So the fact that we saw these immune signatures in these tumors meant that the body was doing its best to try to fight hard for them. We did not see that in tumors in Caucasian men. And then we also saw some variation between African men, and that's because it was self-identified. So now we have ancestry informative markers, so we can see what percentage of African heritage or if you're from mixed race. So anyway, so it's very enlightening, and like I say, this small study done at FAMU has been replicated across the nation, and so we're really happy about that. And the net, I guess what's going on now is we're seeing that medicines are coming out to help your immune system fight your cancer better. And that's why it's so important for all of us to give our tissues to research so that we're included on the front end. That's a long answer. I'll make the other shorter.
Well, thank you so much for that elevator speech, but that was pretty profound. I think you demonstrated really why it's so important that more of us get involved in clinical research. And certainly your work is extremely impactful. As you mentioned, not only is it that study being replicated across the United States, but you've also gone across the diaspora to try to continue this very, very important work. And so we're extremely grateful for that. And certainly, as you know, We Care aims to also help with the recruitment of diverse populations for these kind of studies. And certainly we could tell from the prior video how important it is that as individuals do go through both that screening and treatment phase, that they, even if they're not offered the opportunity to present or participate in a trial during, as a part of their treatment, that they can still offer their tissues. And what I'm hearing you say is that that is very essential to the research that you're doing and can really help take us to that next level of being able to develop both cultural sensitive and ethnocentric focused kinds of treatments in that regard. Well, we thank you so much for your time today and continue that good work. And We Care would love to invite you to a future opportunity where you could certainly talk in a lot more depth about the work that you're doing. So thank you so much for your time. And I'll give it back to you, Dr.
Well, thank you, legend Dr. Angela Hill, and thank you, Dr. Renee Reams. We are now taking a little break again for polls. Please respond to the questions as we post them. And we will continue to take questions in the chat box. We will also inform you that, again, the bio sketches for all of our participants during this webinar today will be posted on the website through the program online at 50hoopslegends.com. Again, 50hoopslegends.com. We have a few more seconds for you to respond to the poll questions, and we will proceed. Next with our legend, Valerie Worthy. And I will proceed while we finish up the poll questions. I'll proceed in reading Valerie Worthy's introduction. She is the co-founder of Touch Black Breast Cancer Alliance. And with her is co-founder, Miss Ricky Farley. Like Valerie, Ricky is also a breast cancer survivor. She co-hosts The Doctor Is In, catchy title, and founding member of Black Data Matters. And she is in partnership with Morehouse School of Medicine, where I am, and Susan G. Komen Foundation. Again, remember that you can all read the bios for today's legends and guests at 50hoopslegends.com. We welcome Legend Valerie Worthy.
So Ricky, how are you?
Hey Val, so good to see you, Val. I love you, Val.
I love you too. So we are live from Annapolis, and I'm so excited.
Wow.
To talk to you about all the good things that's going on with Touch. But first of all, Ricky, tell the audience, for those people that don't know anything about Touch, tell them a little bit about Touch, and then we'll talk a little bit about navigation, and hey, then we can round everything up. Yeah.
Okay. So Val, we've been doing this for like 3.5 years now, right?
Yes.
So we started Touch, and we both sort of had this dream, this vision of if we could do advocacy the best way possible, what we do, and we're doing it. So we are on a mission to eradicate Black breast cancer and advance the science, because the only way we're going to stop these horrible mortality rates for Black women is to get better drugs, to have better science, to get more Black women into clinical trials and get better drugs. Because we have a 41% higher mortality rate. The numbers are horrible.
Yes.
The one that kills me the most is that Black women under 35 get breast cancer at twice the rate of white women and die at 3 times the rate. And we don't know why. And nothing is in our favor, from screening to treatments. Like, nothing works for us. And so we need better science. And, you know, you see it every day in the hospital. And so we get calls from all these young women. You know, I have stage 3A triple negative and 3 babies under 8, and it's just horrible. So we have to do a better job, and we're doing it. We are doing it. We are.
Yes.
We're doing all the things.
We are.
Difference. Yeah.
And I love this because I think that this is a wonderful opportunity. Both of us are breast cancer survivors. So I think that those of us that are survivors will have to lead the way. Because we know what's best, you know, for us in terms of how to get the messaging out in a way that's not frightening.
Right.
But is in a way it's empowering. You know, I think once women understand.
Yeah. And, you know, because we are survivors, and I'm going on almost 12 years next week.
Wow. Amazing.
And you're like double that, right?
Yeah.
But I think we can give hope. You know, our stories and our testimonies give hope to other breasties. And I was talking to one of my neighbor Sharon. I talk about my neighbor Sharon, and she's just finished her chemo, her surgery. She just finished radiation, so she has like a little chemo to go. But I heard her talking today, and she like knew nothing before, and now she's saying, you know, my breastie this, and I know I can do a better job in the front. Wow. Like saying all the things as a breastie. You know, the breastie club isn't one you want to be in, but it's all unconditional love, and you meet the best woman. And I was dying laughing because she's a breastie now.
Yes.
And we all just, when we get better, we just want to go to work.
We do.
Want to go to work, and even our metastatic sisters, everybody wants to go to work to help somebody else get through this craziness.
Wow.
So
and that's so biblical, you know, because things get better for you when you take the focus off you
and put it
towards something else, someone else.
Somebody else. Yeah.
And I've seen that in so many instances where people really do care about people enough that they want to do the hard work so that people don't have to go through, you know, essentially what they've gone through. And that's the lovely thing. So today was a great day.
It was a great day. It was a great day.
Moonshot.
The moonshot. We're in the Cancer Moonshot fact sheet. With our preemptive, the one and only of its kind program that you're doing.
Yes.
So let me take a step back. So, you know, we started When We Trial. We learned from our research that Black women don't get invited to trials by their doctors, but they're scared because they have the fear of the unknown. And everybody wants to blame it kind of on Henrietta Lacks, and she's out there, and the syphilis studies, they're all out there. But really, it's because they think they're going to get a sugar pill and die. They don't understand that there is no sugar pill in breast cancer research, and that you're going to get standard of care, and you're actually going to have better outcomes and better care in a clinical trial.
Right.
So we launched our campaign about 1.5 years ago. We have these really cool videos, which I think everybody probably has seen now, but we have these great videos on whenwetrial.org, and we've now signed up 12,069 Black women for clinical trials.
Love it.
We have a lot more to go, but that's great. But we also hit the road. We've done 55 events in the last 52 weeks all around the country. And now we've launched Touch Care.
Yes.
We are the only advocacy group, the only breast cancer advocacy group that's actually designing trials.
Right.
And providing a nurse navigator program for clinical trials for pharma.
Yeah.
It's a first.
And I love it. The thing I like about it is that someone is on a clinical trial. It's already, you know, being on chemotherapy is frightening anyway. Anyway.
Right.
But it seems that at 5 o'clock, when everything closes, that's when you get like, you're so nervous.
Right.
But to know that you can pick up your phone and call someone and
call
talk.
you.
Yes, and call me, and we can talk things through,
Right.
and I can connect them to resources. So literally, this woman has 24-hour coverage, live
Yes.
coverage.
Live coverage.
Is that
But-
not great? I
That's
mean,
right. And it's not only coverage, but a breastie who's
yes.
and a navigator. Like how cool is that?
Mhm.
Like you couldn't give them any more comfort.
Right,
And
right.
and we're a voice of trust.
Yes, we are.
They don't trust the doctors. We don't trust the researchers, but we trust our sister breasties, right? And
Right, right.
basically say, we're here for you.
Mhm.
And we know how they feel. They don't have to talk. They don't have to explain how they
Right.
feel. We know what
That's
it feels
right.
like. You know
That's
what it
right.
and so
And
we
you
can
know,
give them care.
that's right. And you know, when we go back and we think, well, the researchers, don't trust researchers, don't trust, we don't trust them always with our truth because we don't know how to share our truth
Right. We
with
don't know how
them.
to share it.
But when another breastie looks at us and we look like them, they
Right.
already know that we can finish their sentences for
Right.
them.
We got it. We
We
got them.
got it.
We got it. We don't have
So
they don't
it's,
have to spend that time trying to express their
oh my
feelings.
gosh,
We
right,
understand it, get it, you get it, and then you can say, okay, I've been there.
right.
I've been there, and this is what I did for me. Or guess what?
Mhm.
I have 5 other people I know are dealing with that.
Right.
What they did.
And we
And
can help them like build a relationship,
yeah,
with their oncology team and ask those appropriate
right,
questions and
right,
ask it in a way that they can get really good
right,
responses.
right.
So I really do love this piece of it. I
Yeah.
think that it's novel. I mean, it really
Novel,
is.
well, our hashtags.
Yep.
DSD and DIS, but we
Yep.
want to be iconic. And you know what? I think what's making us succeed with this is because we're impatient about being
Mhm.
I know,
Right.
like we want to fix it now.
Yeah.
I fell and heart, my 2, 4, and 6-year-old grandbabies. I only got about 10 years before they get boobs to get rid of this stuff.
Right.
They're my purpose,
That's
right?
right.
But we're impatient about being iconic. We're impatient about doing things differently.
Mhm.
And advocacy's been around forever, but we still have breast cancer. And Val, I had this epiphany last week. I'm thinking, gosh, we're saying a lot of statement stuff over and over again, but every day new breasties happen.
Every day. Every
Superb, dynamic. Thank you, Legend Valerie Worthy. You are a survivor and a thriver. Thank you again, Miss Ricky Farley. So now it's my turn. I'd like to just acknowledge 2 great legends who I work with, great to call them friends, and fellow researchers, Doctors Desiree and Brian Rivers with Morehouse School of Medicine. Dr. Desiree Rivers is an associate professor within the Cancer Health Equity Institute and has worked tirelessly in her field. She also engages in community-based participatory research with those facing health disparities. Dr. Brian Rivers is director of Cancer Health Equity Institute. He is a nationally and internationally recognized leader in health disparities researcher. In health disparities research. His remarkable career encompasses multiple level approaches to intervention, such as medical mobile apps, and that's again the application development, incorporating community health workers and patient navigators into his research. Please enjoy this rare interview with this legendary couple. Well, thank you again, Dr. Rivers. We are live and direct from Atlanta, Georgia, Morehouse School of Medicine. Hello, everyone. I am Dr. Maisha Standifer, Director of Population Health at Satcher Health Leadership Institute at Morehouse School of Medicine. And I am here interviewing the illustrious and well-accomplished Dr. Desiree Rivers. Hello, Dr. Rivers.
Hello, Dr. Stanford. Thank you
All
for this
right.
opportunity.
Thank you. And you are just a legend within yourself, not just at Morehouse School of Medicine, but I would say nationally, even globally, because we know that this interview is going to expand beyond the borders of Georgia, beyond the borders of the US, but to the global arena. And so we, again, are so elated that we are able to connect with you as a legend, a living legend. And I'd just like for you to provide a brief synopsis of your illustrious career. And then I will also highlight Dr. Brian Rivers. But you, of course, in your own right, are a cancer disparities legend. And I would like for you to first talk a bit about your background, where you're from, what led you up to be a cancer disparities researcher. We know that you are the director of undergraduate medical education for the Department of Community Health and Preventive Medicine here at Morehouse School of Medicine. And so again, if you can provide us with the introductory and the background for yourself, leading up to your schools that you attended, and kind of your first pivotal experience as a community-based researcher for cancer disparities.
Yes, sure, absolutely. Again, thank you so much for this opportunity. I am deeply humbled by the honor of being considered a legend, being in the class of other great legends. Many people that I admire, look up to, have shaped my own work in this area. I would say that my start began certainly with, my upbringing. So I am from a very small town in Alabama. It's actually called Heflin, Alabama. It is adjacent to another small town, Anniston, Alabama, that you might be familiar with if you have some appreciation for cancer disparities. It was actually the site of a cancer cluster. So many of you might be familiar with the infamous Monsanto case and the spilling of PCB and some other environmental toxins in that local community. That did happen many years after, or excuse me, that was discovered, I would say it that way, years after I had grown up and left that community. But certainly I'm sure that many of the unfortunate happenings related to that being established, that that environmental insult being taken place, that started while I was there as a child. So that is certainly a pivotal moment, understanding what that community was being exposed to, what we did not at that time understand as a cancer cluster, but then subsequently learning, that might be the explanation why, different family members were affected by cancer. I attended undergraduate school. So leaving Heflin, Alabama, I went to Nashville, Tennessee. I was educated at Vanderbilt University. I obtained a Bachelor of Science degree with honors from Vanderbilt University. After going to Vanderbilt, went to obtain a master's degree, so a Master of Science in health policy, actually from the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Public Health, and then my final degree coming from Texas A&M University in College Station, Texas. So I have a doctorate in health education. So all southeastern states, I guess I would say. So I certainly spent some time in Tennessee and then Alabama and then in Texas. But my postdoctoral fellowship, so some subsequent training after getting my doctorate in Florida at the Moffitt Cancer Center, again, bringing me back to cancer, having some appreciation for the role of patient navigators and community health workers and their role in helping us address cancer health disparities would also be something that would shape my career in focusing on cancer disparities. So that work both involved, as I mentioned, community health workers. Certainly at that time, I was able to establish research. So I began to focus on cancers that affected primarily women, so breast. I did have some exposure to colorectal cancer as well, but primarily focusing on breast cancer, African-American women. I was very interested in their stories, wanted to know what their experience was, how were they able to prevent it, perhaps, but certainly how their treatment or any delays to treatment, how that came to be. So that was the focus of my early research. I was primarily interested in, again, breast cancer disparities, African-American women, even women in their families. So talking to women, talking to their daughters, so how is that communicated? How do we share that information amongst family members? And again, and hopefully in addressing cancer disparities, but maybe even prevention of cancer. So certainly my early life experiences, again, growing up in a small town where there was likely a cancer cluster, there was cancer environmental exposure early on in life. That sort of set the path, and then having some work experience in the communities in Florida, it sort of led to where I am today.
Thank you. Can you elaborate on in detail about your current research projects in the cancer arena?
Sure, absolutely. So after leaving the Moffitt Cancer Center and the University of South Florida in Tampa, we took a excellent opportunity to come back closer to home. And so that's when I joined the Morehouse School of Medicine and continued to pursue cancer disparities research. I've been fortunate to have a couple of cancer projects funded. One, again, looking at prevention or lifestyle measures, again, for African-American females. And so I have a project that is looking at adoption of plant-based diet and exercise, again, in postmenopausal, specifically obese African-American women, and seeing if that reduced risk for recurrence of breast and or endometrial cancer. And also interested again in other cancers and other preventive measures. I have a project that looks at lung cancer screening. So what are those barriers? What would be those facilitators to someone getting the appropriate lung cancer screening given their eligibility? So given whatever their age is, if they meet that eligibility criteria of the age 50 or older, if they're a smoker, what are those things that we can either put in place at the individual level, at the systems level, to help the providers make the recommendations that they get screened, to help the individuals get the appropriate screening when they're eligible.
Great, thank you. Now, I know that there are some ongoing and some future projects, particularly focusing on lung cancer that disparately impacts our community, particularly the African-American community. Can you elaborate on that research project?
Sure. So again, my project at this phase, I guess I would say, is for me to really have a complete understanding of what are the, again, individual level, provider level, system level barriers that might be in place. I don't yet know all of those factors that go into an individual receiving the appropriate referral and then following through to get the screening. We've seen some efforts that have been addressing, again, system level reminders, placement in the electronic medical record system so that the provider is reminded to make the referral. But that sort of tracking, once the person gets the referral, how does the flow go for them to be able to then obtain that screening? So I need to understand a little bit more about that particular process. But then on the other end of it, again, I'm a behavioral scientist, and so my work is certainly in a health services researcher. So my efforts would be around, once I identify what those barriers are. So if it is that the electronic medical record does not appropriately have the reminder or the system in place, the survey in place, so that a provider would know when to make that referral and then how to follow up on the appropriate test, then I would basically make that recommendation. So these are the changes that we need to make in the electronic medical record so the provider is adequately equipped to follow up with patients. And then also at the individual level, I think there's a lot of education. There's a lot of empowerment, frankly, of patients that needs to be done. Not as many persons as we would hope know themselves what makes them eligible, what makes them appropriate candidate for lung cancer screening. And again, when you talk about minority populations, that's sort of another level of compounding. We're not getting the word, we're not getting the information, we're not empowered with enough information and to be able to have those conversations with our providers to say, screen me. include me in these services that I should be getting, based on my income, based on my insurance, based on my health status. I can pay for it. I'm eligible for it. Why aren't you making these recommendations? So including individuals in their healthcare decisions, giving them the information to be able to make those informed decisions, to participate in that process so that we can see lung cancer screening take place more often, certainly when a person is eligible for it. And then again, amongst the community, that we are better educated about, what is lung cancer, what does it look like, who needs to be screened for it, and certainly so that we're not, waiting until symptoms appear. We want to get ahead of this.
That's excellent. Well, thank you for your service and providing an overview. I would like to ask in conclusion, as you talked a little bit about empowerment for those who are disproportionately impacted, what would you like your legacy to be?
Oh, wow.
And yeah, if possible, or just a small start, maybe I say, maybe 5-year goal in terms of the aspirations of students and community members who would like to, have some insight or make some type of advancements for cancer disparities research, particularly focusing on cancer and community-based research. What would be some aspiring words of encouragement that you would say to those students and to community members looking to get
that's a great question. That is absolutely the ways in which I would shape any such legacy, is that I would want it to be around making sure that the next generation, so those that are part of my current research team, those that are the students that I'm able to mentor, that I'm able to educate in my coursework, that they have the tools, that they have the information, and that they're integrally involved in the work, so that this will continue. I don't have, expectation that we will solve, all of the questions, that we will answer all of the questions, that will solve all the problems necessarily in the work that I'm going to be doing. But if we've trained, if we've exposed, if we've mentored, if we've educated enough, I think, of the next generation, then I absolutely do feel like the legacy of continued exploration of these questions that we think are relevant, having the impact in the community that we hope for, that's possible by involving right now, those young learners and leaders in the work that we're doing. That's the way to ensure a strong legacy, I think. And so that's what I actively am involved in. So my research teams, for instance, they are multi-generational. They have myself, of course, folks that are doctorally trained, MD and PhD. But yes, I have community members, I have students, I have at multiple levels as well. So graduate students, even high school students, they're fortunate that, there are opportunities for multiple levels and generations of folks that can be involved in this work. I think that's the only way for us to have a lasting legacy.
Lasting legacy it is. Thank you. Living
African Americans, men and women, are more likely to die from cancer in comparison to any other racial ethnic group here in the United States. We continuously ask ourselves the question, why? Why is that the case? Here at Morehouse School of Medicine, we're battling cancer on all fronts, from the discoveries that we're making in the laboratory, with the application of new technologies that will advance our understanding of this deadly disease. And just as important, we're bringing this fight against cancer into the communities that we serve, those adversely impacted by cancer.
The joy of innovation is to take something and revolutionize the way that it's done. Through my research at Morehouse School of Medicine, I'm asking the types of questions that will allow us to discover a better way to treat cancer.
Currently, in my lab, we have developed a novel method of looking at BRCA function which can predict the risk of development of triple-negative breast cancer in young African American women.
We're looking at using laser activated nanoparticles to deliver a targeted therapy to cancer. I'm using antibodies, which are popularly known now as immunotherapy. And I'm using that as the delivery vehicle to deliver the nanoparticles to the site of the tumor, which allows for a very targeted approach to induce tumor regression.
We now know at least one of the mechanisms by which BRCA dysfunction can result in triple-negative breast cancer. And based on that, we have issued a patent, which is the only patent in the world, by predicting triple-negative breast cancer early, and by developing personalized targeted therapy, we are reducing the mortality in African American women.
Here at Morehouse School of Medicine, we're giving hope, we have hope, and we are hopeful.
The tragedy for me of the healthcare system is that where you live impacts potentially how long you live. The communities and neighborhoods that we partner with really bear the brunt of health disparities, whether it's prostate, breast cancer, or even cervical cancer.
I think the major gap is access and making sure that the African American community has access to all the diagnostic, therapeutic, and preventative measures, especially as it relates to cancer. Having access at the primary care level and at the specialty level to measures that screen folks for those particular cancers is critical.
The health of our population start with us knowing how to engage and relate with those who are most in need. A lot of what we do is to ensure that people are aware of their risk. We also ensure that we engage with community leaders. For example, we partner with local churches to develop a colorectal cancer screening and education program. We know that people engaged with those they trust, and churches were critical to this. It increased their rates of colorectal cancer screening and then increased their linkage to care.
Here at Morehouse School of Medicine, we are passionate and committed to ensuring that all individuals have access to quality of care, and we are dedicated to saving lives. Through its existence for the past 40 years, Morehouse School of Medicine has really cultivated a niche as one dedicated to the medically underserved, as one dedicated to disenfranchised populations. Morehouse School of Medicine is poised to do something great, to do something novel, to do something innovative, something that hasn't been done before. We're leading the creation and advancement of health equity.
Thank you. The dynamic duo, we call them at Morehouse School of Medicine, Doctors Brian and Desiree Rivers. True living legends for those combating cancer disparities. And I believe we have Dr. Desiree Rivers present with us today. So please, if you have any questions, please post them in the chat box. Again, and Dr. Reams is still here with us. Post any questions focused on her presentation today. In the chat box, please place your questions there. And again, before we wrap up our matchmaking event, the purpose is to, again, match, individuals or organizations, with the appropriate stakeholders. We all obviously are committed, we're dedicated, and we are passionate. I know I am. And for those who have presented today, whether they be researchers, whether they be community organizers, or survivors or thrivers, we are ready to match up individuals. So if you'd like a match, please place that in the Q&A. I think we have 1 or 2 individuals who'd like to be matched with a clinical trial or be matched with a community stakeholder or organization. Please place that information in the Q&A or chat box. And so now, last but not the least, we have another living legend, Dr. Robin Kelly. Her guest is Stand Up to Cancer's Mr. Frederick Johnson. He's the Manager, Advocacy and Strategic Collaborations Coordinator. Mr. Johnson's patient advocacy outreach is to communities, including building relationships with key stakeholders in the cancer community to increase awareness, education, and engagement. As project manager, he works with top cancer researchers, advocates, and thought leaders to increase opportunities for diverse participation in cancer clinical trials.
Yes, good afternoon, all. And for some who are on the West Coast, good morning. It's a pleasure to follow, well, it's a little intimidating to follow such phenomenal speakers and such wonderful presentations and to know what's out there and the opportunities that we all have to have made a success or to really move forward in the fight against cancer. So it's my pleasure to get out of your way because I know the time is of the essence for many, and I do not want to stand between you and Mr. Frederick Johnson. As you heard, he's such a dynamic person. He's been working at the Stand Up for Cancer, and he's going to talk a lot about that and show us some slides, as well as talk about his own journey. So again, it's my pleasure to introduce him and to get out of your way. But thank you, and I'll turn it over to Frederick.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Kelly. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Okay, I hope that's visible to everyone. Thank you again for asking me to be a part of today's activities. You guys bear with me one sec. I thought I was sharing the proper screen. Hold for one moment. Okay, so Stand Up to Cancer, which was founded in 2008, is a cancer research funding organization. We fund collaborative research across multi-institutions with researchers and doctors, innovative research that we fund to save lives now as soon as possible, to make every long-term survivor, make every cancer patient a long-term survivor. And we also uniquely galvanize the entertainment industry as well to help uplift our efforts in public awareness campaigns and education around cancer clinical trials. So one of our campaigns, and I'm trying to go to the next, there we go. So one of our campaigns, Stand Up For Us All, is a campaign designed to increase awareness and education about the importance of clinical trials, especially increasing diverse populations enrollment in clinical trials. So we launched this campaign, which is, to educate patients and caregivers. It was a multilingual campaign, which featured the actor Cedric the Entertainer, Sonequa Martin Green, and also the Latino actor Jaime Camille. And the website, there's a website that supports the campaign, which is standuptocancer.org/clinical trials, which features a number of resources. There is a series of videos, animated videos about cancer clinical trials. If I have time, I'm going to show one of those to you guys today. I'm definitely going to show you the website. In fact, I'm going to share my screen to go there now to the website so you guys can see a lot of the different resources that are offered. So give me one sec here. Okay, for some reason, I'm having a difficulty sharing the screen. So I'll just go back to the slides and talk about it. For some reason, I'm not able. Oh, there we go. I found it. Okay, so you guys, this is the website. So I refer to this website as Clinical Trials 101. It's standuptocancer.org/clinical trials. I will share all of this information with everyone. There's a toolkit that includes all of the links to where you can find the information related to the Stand Up For Us All campaign and the clinical trials website. So in this website, in a very, what I find like very kind of easy entry point for anyone that is new to the subject of clinical trials, or is just perhaps they're looking on behalf of a family member, it's a way for them to find out what a clinical trial is, why participate. We also address common questions and also provide resources. So as we scroll through the site, this is one of the animated videos I was talking about. There are 14 videos in English and in Spanish that cover a wide subject, and they're short animated videos. The videos are like 1 minute each. They cover like what is informed consent, what is a clinical trial, what is chemotherapy. There's a whole language that people have to learn when they're exploring a clinical trial. So that's what a lot of these videos address. In addition to that, it talks about common questions that people may have, you know, whether they can be treated locally, are they going to get a placebo, how their treatment is paid for. So we address a lot of those questions as well here on the site. And then we take people through the journey of identifying a trial all the way to being released from a trial. So as you kind of move through this journey and click on these different areas, there are different, you know, pieces of information, helpful information that comes up. And then we talk about types of treatment, which could be cancer vaccines, combination therapy, epigenetics, chemotherapy, et cetera. So as people move to these different areas and click on these areas, they learn exactly what that's about. There's usually a video, an educational video tied to each one of these as well, one of the animated videos. We provide resources here. You can download questions to ask your doctor. So if you have questions, someone said earlier, you know, that a lot of times the doctor's not aware of clinical trials. So we customize some questions that a family member or a patient could take to their doctor to help get that conversation about cancer clinical trials going. There's also a glossary as well, because we start hearing, you know, words like biomarkers. And like I said, it's a whole new language that is very, you know, challenging for a patient or, you know, a family member or a caregiver. It's new. So we provide this glossary to help educate as well about those terminologies. And lastly, this is where you can find the trial. Now, the trials here are not just Stand Up to Cancer funded trials. They are also, they're all the trials that one could find on clinicaltrials.gov. I just personally think this is an easier way to find the trial. For those who've been on clinicaltrials.gov, they know that can be a challenging website. So we tried to make this easier for people to be able to search out a trial. If even searching out a trial is too challenging, there is a toll-free phone number. A toll-free phone number one can call to speak to someone in English or in Spanish, and that person will help you find a trial. So you can call that toll-free phone number for that. So that's a quick overview of the clinical trials website. I'm going to go back to the slides quickly and show you guys a couple of last things. Okay, and back to the slide. So that's the campaign. Again, I'll put in links in the tool. The toolkit will encompass all of these things. So I do want to let you know that Stand Up to Cancer does have a health equity initiative. We fund several projects that are based, that are around increasing diversity in cancer clinical trials, in lung cancer and a number of different cancers, or just, you know, across cancers, just increasing diversity in various communities, and specifically the Black community in one trial in particular that we do fund. We also have a colorectal cancer project. I kind of wanted to just touch on that one as kind of a case study, so you could see, as everyone on this call knows, you know, that, you know, colorectal cancer disproportionately affects Black people, that we have the highest colorectal cancer rates of any ethnic group in the United States, and are 20% more likely to get colorectal cancer and 40% more likely to die from it than any other population. We did fund a colorectal cancer health equity research project to specifically increase screening rates to 80% in 3 communities. And they really were targeting reaching African American and Latino communities and Native American populations. And so this project is in Los Angeles, Boston, and the Great Plains tribal communities in South Dakota to reach the American Indian population there. So in addition to increasing the screening rates, they're also going to be establishing a comprehensive repository of stool samples as well. And they're building this collection of blood and stool samples for future research, and it's to ensure that low income and racial and ethnic minority populations are represented in the development of the new screening tests and early detection methods for colorectal cancer. Tied to this effort, as I said, we also do, it's important that we do public awareness and education as well. So tied to this project, we did several different public awareness education events or public awareness campaigns, excuse me. We did one with Jamie Foxx. We did one with Chuck D from the legendary rap group Public Enemy, and as well one with George Lopez and the rapper will.i.am. And all of these projects campaigns were about increasing education about the importance of colorectal cancer screening. So I will be sending you guys some links. There's our various researches. There's our Stand Up to Cancer resources page. We have an information card as well. I'll send you a key to that. These are great things that you can review. You can take to your doctor's office. You can learn more. It'll lead you to other information just to empower you as the advocate, the caregiver, or perhaps the patient as well when they're speaking with their doctor. We do have this other interesting resource called a clinical trial bingo card. It is a small bingo card, but it's numbers on the card. There's information about clinical trials. So this is kind of used to kind of demystify and address some misconceptions that there may be around clinical trials. The bingo card, which is used actually in community settings to play bingo and actually have a discussion about cancer, kind of sneak a cancer discussion in there while having a community bingo game. So we have the bingo card. And lastly, I just want to touch on quickly Project Teach. I'll send that link as well. Project Teach is a collaboration between Stand Up to Cancer, the Black Women's Health Imperative, and Friends of Cancer Research. So Project Teach is a suite of tools. It's an advocate education program that's a suite of tools to empower Black women to participate in and effectively engage with researchers and clinicians in cancer-focused clinical trials. So this course, it's an online course that trains and educates Black women cancer patients, advocates, and family members to understand clinical research and then partner effectively with researchers and clinicians throughout the drug development process. So Project Teach participants, they get a certification and become what's called an empowered patient partner. And we feel they're then empowered and they have the tools and the knowledge from Project Teach to then go on and participate with researchers. So I'm going to send you guys information on that website as well as the link to the toolkit. Thank you so much for my time. And I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Standifer.
Well, we thank you. My goodness, I have people texting me and chatting me. Oh, how are we getting connection with them? So hopefully you're able to leave your information in the chat. Mr. Johnson, we thank you
absolutely.
Again. Okay. Again, our legend, Dr. Robin Kelly, thank you for presenting us with Mr. Frederick Johnson. We thank you all for participating in today's webinar. We're running a little over time. We have a few more minutes in terms of concluding this particular webinar. We have some polls and some questions that we'd like for you to respond to as we close out this session. Please respond to the 9 questions. This has been a dynamic webinar. Again, it's being recorded, and we do have still some of our living legends and our legends here. So if you'd like to be matched with an organization, please, again, place the organization and the link and your name in the Q&A box. If you are a stakeholder or a patient or a disease-based organization that are interested in a clinical trial, in terms of recruitment and education, please place that in the chat box as well. Please do this now, along with posting your responses to the polls. Remember, you can read all of the bios from our illustrious, fast-paced, and much information that we were able to glean and enhance some of our knowledge and skill sets today. From our legends and our guests, you can go to that website at 50hoopslegends.com. And we have pre-selected some of the gifts and prizes as those who registered. Your names were chosen. Please send your address to psoc@yahoo.com. That's PEASOC@yahoo.com. I believe someone will post that email address for those who were awarded gifts and prizes today. That you were chosen for registering and just being graced with much of the knowledge, inspiration, and much of that motivation today. Again, we thank everyone for coming, and we will now conclude the webinar session if there are not any additional questions.
Spider asked the names of the the people who won gifts.
Oh, okay.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Again, thank you all for making this a wonderful and successful program. We really appreciate it from the bottom of our hearts. I do have the name of the gift prize winners. The t-shirt winners are Michelle Mosley, Yvette King, Rosa McKenzie Cambridge, and the $50 gift card winner is Eugene Manley Jr.
Wow.
Be sure to send me your name, address, and t-shirt sizes. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Mr. Saunders. Oh my goodness. We have big money here. All right, and great gifts. Thank you so much. Again, just by attending and being graced with the knowledge of our guests and our speakers and our legends especially. We thank you so very much. And now we will conclude our webinar with our benediction by Dr. Singleton.
The Anti-Ableist Manifesto will be published by Hatchet Go in 2024. She is also
Thank you again. Once again, we want to ask that the Lord will continue to bless us and keep us. Lord, we pray as we come to the close of this event. We thank you again for your greatness, your protection, grace, love, and mercy. And until we meet again, Lord, we ask that you will continually bless 50 Hoops and expand their territory. We ask this all in the mighty, powerful, awesome name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. And continue to be blessed.
Absolutely fabulous. Wonderful job, everybody. God bless you.
Thank you.